This is Kenichi, a full-time gooner and a part-time hardcore gamer. By hardcore, I mean this ugly loser spent 3 full years finishing a single game. After finally beating it, he leans back like some gaming legend and starts complaining that the game was boring and disappointing. Bro, if it was that boring, why did you play it for 3 years? Just admit it, you're bad at games and move on. What Kenichi really wants isn't fun, he wants pain. He wants a game so cruel that it would ruin his life for at least 10 years. Something that doesn't care about his feelings or his sleep schedule. So without wasting time, he jumps online and starts hunting for his next victim. He scrolls through titles, ratings, reviews, and recommendations, but everything looks weak. Too easy, too normal. Nothing screams, "This will destroy you." Then suddenly his computer starts acting weird. The screen glitches, flickers, and strange symbols pop up like his PC is possessed. Out of nowhere, a message appears offering him a game that never ends, set in a fantasy world filled with magic. Kenichi's eyes light up like he just found buried treasure. A game that never ends. That alone is enough to make his gamer brain short circuit. Without thinking twice, he clicks it like an idiot clicking accept on a suspicious pop-up. The game asks him to choose a difficulty: easy mode, normal mode, hard mode. Boring, same old trash. But as he scrolls down, he notices something hiding at the bottom, a mode called Hell Mode. This is new, this is spicy, this is exactly the kind of suffering he's been begging for. His excitement goes through the roof. Finally, a game that might actually bully him back. Without even hesitating, he selects Hell Mode. Next, he picks the Summoner class, feeling way too confident for someone who took 3 years to finish 1 game. He clicks Start, and that's when things go very wrong. The screen flashes is blindingly bright, and before he can even scream or unplug the PC, Kenichi gets sucked straight into the monitor like a bug into a vacuum cleaner. The next thing he knows, he's crying his lungs out, not because he lost a game, but because he's been reborn. He opens his eyes and realizes he's now a newborn baby, entering the world in a poor frontier family. A man gently lifts him up and gives him a name. From now on, he is called Alan. Strangely, Alan isn't upset at all. In his past life, he was a 35-year-old broke gamer with a dead-end job and 0 future. Compared to that sad existence, this feels like a massive upgrade. Reincarnation gives him a second chance, and this time, he plans to live properly instead of yelling at a screen. Right now, Alan is only 1 year old, so talking is impossible, but his mind works perfectly fine. He can think clearly, understand conversations around him, and carefully observe everything. He quickly realizes that the people here speak Japanese, which seems to be the common language of this world. Alan's family lives in a frontier village where settlers pay taxes to a ruling lord in exchange for land to farm. The place is so new and undeveloped that it doesn't even have a proper name yet. His father, Rodin, is a hardworking and kind man who does everything he can to provide for the family. Based on his appearance, Alan guesses his father is around 20 years old. His mother, Dija, looks even younger, probably still in her late teens. Watching how close and loving his parents are, Alan figures it's only a matter of time before he ends up with little siblings running around. That night, after being put to bed, Alan lies there quietly, lost in thought. Suddenly, something clicks in his mind. He remembers that in this world, he chose the Summoner class. Curious, he tries to open a status screen like in a normal game, but instead of a clean little window appearing, a giant book suddenly pops into existence and floats right above him. Alan lets out a terrified scream. Yeah, seeing a magical floating book as a baby will do that to you. The noise immediately alerts his parents. Realizing he's about to cause a huge problem, Alan panics and forces the book to disappear before anyone walks in. His parents rush into the room, but when they see nothing unusual, they assume their baby was just making noise in his sleep. Thinking it's nothing serious, they quietly leave, completely unaware that their child just summoned something straight out of a nightmare. As soon as his parents leave, Alan carefully pulls the floating book back out again, like a kid sneaking snacks at midnight. This time, he actually gets a good look at it. Turns out this thing isn't just some creepy magic decoration, it's a grimoire, basically his personal user manual for this new world. Inside are all his stats, skills, and abilities laid out nice and clear. After flipping through it, Alan confirms the obvious. Yep, he really did lock himself into the Summoner class. According to the book, he can call creatures from thin air. Sounds cool, until he reads the fine print. Because he's still a baby, the system has nerfed him hard. For now, he can only summon insects and small animals. Not dragons, not demons, bugs. Still, Alan is thrilled. Hey, everyone has to start somewhere. Too excited to think properly, he immediately tries summoning an insect. Nothing happens. He tries again. Still nothing. Again. Nope. After failing over and over like an idiot, pressing the same button and expecting a different result, Alan finally forces himself to calm down. He goes back to the grimoire and notices another skill he ignored earlier, the create skill. When he activates it, something finally changes. A glowing crafting card for an insect appears in front of him. That's when it clicks. He isn't supposed to summon creatures out of nowhere. He has to create them first, then summon them. Now that he has the card, he prepares to do it properly, but of course, timing hates him. Just as he's about to summon, his mother walks in to check on him. Alan reacts instantly, dropping the act and pretending to sleep like a professional. After she leaves, he realizes his body feels ridiculously heavy. Using skills drains him way more than he expected. His eyelids feel like bricks, and staying awake is clearly not happening. So he gives up, deciding to try again tomorrow, and passes out. The next morning, when no one is paying attention to him, Alan pulls out the grimoire again. This time everything works. The summoning completes, and a giant grasshopper appears out of nowhere and immediately jumps straight onto his face. Alan completely panics for half a second, then remembers he's technically the boss here. He quickly tries giving it commands, telling it to obey him. The grasshopper does not care at all. It ignores him and casually hops away like, yeah, no. Confused and slightly offended, Alan checks the grimoire again. Inside, he finds the grasshopper's stats neatly written down. The book also explains something important. Summoned creatures need to be named before they properly recognize their master. After thinking for a moment, Alan decides to name the grasshopper Dina. It sounds good enough for a bug. When he checks his own stats again, he notices something interesting. Just by summoning Dana, his abilities have actually increased. Before he can enjoy this small victory, disaster strikes. His mother suddenly walks into the room. The moment she sees the grasshopper, she freezes. She is absolutely terrified of insects. Without thinking even for a second, she reacts on pure instinct and crushes Dana instantly. No warning, no mercy. Just like that, Alan's first summon is gone forever. Over the next few days, Alan keeps experimenting with his skills whenever he gets the chance. After a lot of trial and error, he finally manages to summon another creature. This time, it's a small mouse. He names it Mousy because honestly, creativity isn't his strongest stat yet. Sadly, Mousy turns out to be just as dumb as Dina. It barely listens and mostly runs around doing whatever it wants. However, Mousy does have one useful skill called Scurry, which lets it dash around the room at insane speed. While Mousy isn't exactly obedient, it will at least use Scurry whenever Alan tells it to, which is still a small win in his book. Alan spends the rest of the day glued to his grimoire, reading every page again and again. He tries to understand how summoning truly works and what he needs to do to create stronger monsters that will actually follow orders. He thinks about conditions, possible tricks, skill combinations, everything. But no matter how hard he studies, he can't find a clear answer. By the end of it, all he gets is a mild headache and a lot of frustration. Later that afternoon, Alan's father, Rodin, finally comes home. His clothes are stained with blood, making it obvious he just returned from a dangerous hunt. With pride in his voice, Rodin tells Alan that he managed to take down a massive boar. He describes how huge and terrifying it was, clearly enjoying the story, and then asks if Alan wants to go see it. Hearing that, Alan's excitement explodes. This is the first real monster Alan has ever seen in this world, and his excitement shoots through the roof like he just unlocked a rare event. Seeing his son so thrilled, Rodin decides to take him along, since this is also Alan's first proper trip outside the house. After about 10 minutes, they reach the place where the giant boar monster is being cut up. Several villagers are already there, working together like it's a group mission. At first, Alan is amazed as he looks closely at the monster, but the longer he stares, the more his excitement fades. About 10 months later, Alan gets exciting news. He reaches level 2 as a summoner. This allows him to create G-rank creature cards and unlocks a fusion skill that lets him combine his summons. On top of that, his inventory space doubles, meaning more buffs and more potential power. That night, filled with excitement, Alan tries to use his fusion skill, but no matter what he does, it doesn't work. His MP is full, the process is correct, correct, yet nothing happens. He feels frustrated, but realizes he's still too young and not strong enough. By the time Alan turns 3, his growth is obvious. After many failed attempts, he finally succeeds in fusion and creates a bird card. The summoned bird is named Chappie. Chappie has a skill called voice mimicry, allowing it to perfectly copy anything Alan says. Alan immediately sees how useful this could be in battles and traps. Looking at everything he's learned, Alan feels satisfied. This world feels like hardcore gaming at its peak. Later that afternoon, his friend Karina comes over to play. They start sword fighting with wooden sticks, and Alan thinks it'll be easy. But Karina turns out to be much faster, dodging his attacks and hitting back before he can react, leaving him completely caught off guard. Karina doesn't even give him time to breathe. She slips past his attacks like she's dancing, dodges everything he throws, and smacks him back before his brain can even process what's happening. Before he knows it, the fight is over, and he's the loser. By the end of the day, Alan is completely wrecked. Every muscle hurts, his body feels like it got run over, and his pride is in even worse shape. Karina absolutely destroyed him. Still, instead of crying about it, Alan lies there quietly and makes a promise to himself. Next time they fight, he won't lose. No matter what, he'll be stronger by then. That night, the family drops some big news. Deja announces that she's pregnant. The moment Alan hears this, he tells his father that he wants to help with harvesting the potatoes, since his mother won't be able to do as much work anymore. They gently refuse and tell him that a kid his age shouldn't be worrying about work. They say his job is to play, rest, and enjoy being a child. They even encourage him to keep spending time with Karina, since they've noticed how happy he looks whenever the two of them play together at night. On top of that, they mention they're really excited about Alan's upcoming appraisal ceremony. Alan has no idea what that is. A few months pass, and winter arrives. One day, Alan makes a careless mistake and forgets to hide Dana. His mother suddenly spots the insect. When Rodin rushes in, Deja tells him her water has broken. Not long after, Jera and his wife Matilda arrive. By morning, the boys wake up to the sound of a baby crying. They rush over and find that the delivery was successful. Rodin decides to call him Mesh. Deja immediately likes the name, but after a moment, she asks if it came from a monster. Rodin admits that it did. Still, Deja can't deny that it sounds nice. She starts laughing, and soon everyone else joins in. As they laugh together, Alan quietly watches from the side. Alan makes a silent vow. No matter what it takes, he will free his family from the cruel life of being serfs. A few years later, when Alan turns 5, a big question pops into his head. He looks up at his father and asks what this aptitude day is all about. His father smiles and explains it in a simple way. He tells Alan that when every child in the land turns 5, they must go to a special test. But he also warns Alan that many kids will be tested on the same day. Alan tilts his head, not really understanding what competition means. Just then, a familiar voice calls his name. Karina appears behind his father and waves happily. She says they should walk to the test together. Soon, the small group starts heading toward the village. As they move through the streets, Karina stares around in shock. There are houses everywhere, way more than she expected. Alan is busy looking at everything with wide eyes. While walking, Karina suddenly declares that if she gets the chance, she will become a knight and fight with a sword. The building for the test turns out to be a church. When they reach it, Alan notices something that makes him feel small. Many of the other kids are wearing clean, fancy clothes. Some of them even whisper and laugh when they realize he's just a servant's child. Before things can get worse, the church doors open. The priests step forward and speak about Elmia, the god who created the world. They say every child is given a fair start in life. They remind everyone that even great heroes once came from poor families. One was born a simple villager, another used to be a servant. Hearing this, Alan feels a small spark of hope. He remembers from his old life that powerful roles often begin from the lowest places. The children are then called inside. The church is quiet and serious. At the front stands a statue of Elmia watching over the room. The village chief and his son go first. The rules are simple. Each child must place their hand on a glowing crystal ball. Whatever skills and talents they have will appear on a metal board behind the priest. The chief is so nervous, sweat drips down his face. His son touches the crystal. Words appear on the board. The boy is meant to become a traitor. The father almost cries with happiness. Alan secretly checks his own invisible book. Only he can see it. Instead of numbers, his skills are shown as letter ranks. One by one, the children step forward. One boy finds out he has no special talent and runs back to his dad in tears. Another kid slaps himself for courage, then cheers when he learns he has amazing luck and the strength to fight with an axe. Alan is shocked when he sees that this boy even has a top-level rank, something he's never seen before. Soon, only 2 kids are left. Krina doesn't wait. She rushes to the crystal and presses her hand against it. Suddenly, the light explodes across the room, brighter than anyone expected. The metal board reveals her future. She is meant to become a legendary sword master. Everyone gasps. That kind of role is almost unheard of. Krina, however, crosses her arms and complains. She says she just wanted to be a normal sword fighter. Alan finally understands why he could never beat her when they played. Now it's Alan's turn. He walks forward calmly and touches the crystal. A flash bursts out, even stronger than Krina's. The force knocks him back onto the floor. His father runs to the priest, asking what happened, but the answer is strange. The board doesn't show a class or talent. Instead, it's covered in messy symbols and broken letters. Inside his head, Alan starts shouting at the game makers for making such a broken system, but his father gently helps him up and tells him it's time to go home. Later that night, they sit together by the fire. His parents hold him close and tell him something important. Talent or no talent, he is still their precious son. Alan smiles. Their home is small. They don't even have a proper bath. But in that moment, he feels rich in a different way. When he lies down to sleep, he opens his secret book one last time. He checks his stats carefully. Every single one is ranked at the very bottom. That's when it hits him. All the kids were 5 years old. That means they should all be at the very start, just like him. But somehow, Alan realizes he's the only one in this world playing the hardest difficulty. After thinking about his strange status, Alan slowly starts to understand what those letter ranks really mean. It's not saying he is weak, it's saying he grows painfully slow. In this world, when people level up, their strength jumps forward. But for Alan, every step forward feels like crawling. His hell mode makes his progress almost 100 times slower than everyone else's. That's why all his skills show the lowest rank. The numbers aren't broken, his growth is. In his past life, he was a guy who loved easy games. Now fate throws him into a world where he's the only one playing on the hardest setting. Anyone else would lose their mind. Alan just grins. He didn't come here to quit, he came here to beat a challenge that looks impossible. About that strange class name full of messy letters, Alan decides it must be a system error. In his head, he promises to complain until the makers of this world fix it. No broken game escapes a stubborn gamer. The next morning, Alan notices something odd. His father is quiet and stiff, acting like he barely slept. Alan asks his mother what's wrong, but she only smiles and says his father is just thinking too much. That evening, the family heads to Krina's house to celebrate her amazing result. Krina can't stop talking. She proudly explains that a sword lord is even stronger than a normal sword fighter. Alan pretends to act surprised, so she won't know he already figured that out. Matilda mentions that the village leader brought them a bottle of fancy drink as a gift. Roden tries to stay serious, but his eyes shine when he tells everyone to enjoy it. Alan starts wondering if his father feels jealous of Krina's success, but he quickly pushes the thought away. Then Jera tells Roden that guests should take the first sip. Roden says no. Back and forth they go, until the friendly talk turns sharp. Jera suddenly says that Roden wants to stop the two families from seeing each other. That makes the room go silent. Roden sighs and explains himself. He says Krina's talent is so rare that she might one day become a knight, maybe even a noble. People like that shouldn't be tied down by simple servant families. The words hit hard. The two men step closer, voices rising, fists tightening. Alan quickly looks at Krina, hoping she'll stop them, but their wives move faster. Matilda swings first. One clean punch drops her husband to the floor. Alan learns a very important life lesson right there. Never make Matilda angry. Later, he asks her if the two men always fight like this. She laughs and says they used to brawl almost every day when they were younger. Becoming fathers actually made them calmer. Teresa adds that the two families have known each other since they were kids. They even moved together to this land years ago and built their homes side by side. That's why the houses look so similar. The men start arguing again about who worked harder building the homes. But after finally drinking the old bottle they saved since their wedding days, they laugh and make peace. The next morning, trouble arrives. While working, Jera hears that the Night Order is looking for Krina. Worried, he gathers his friends and takes his daughter back to the city where the test happened. The news has already spread. People whisper as they walk by. Everyone knows a powerful sword lord was born among common folk. Suddenly, a boy steps into their path, gripping a heavy club. Alan recognizes him. It's the loud kid from the test, the one with the axe talent. The boy sneers and asks Alan what a no-talent nobody is doing in a place like this. Before Alan can speak, Krina jumps in front of him, ready to fight. Jera quickly grabs her before she actually does. Then the ground starts to shake. Horses arrive. The Night Order rides into the city, shining in armor. At their front stands Captain Xenof, a famous swordmaster. Everyone watches in awe as they dismount. The village chief calls Jera and Krina forward. Krina's eyes sparkle. Just 3 years ago, she was swinging sticks in pretend battles. Now, real knights stand in front of her. Xenof offers Krina a place in the Night Order, but Jera hesitates. He says she's still too young, too small to even hold a real sword. Xenof's face hardens. He says refusing means Jera is lying about his daughter's test. Lying to a noble is a crime that can lead to death. The air turns cold. To prove Krina's talent is real, Xenof demands a test. Jera falls to his knees, begging them to stop. But the captain's words are sharp and final. If Krina does not fight, her and her whole family will be executed. As everyone watches in fear, Krina is the only one who doesn't hesitate. The moment a sword is placed in front of her, she grabs it and runs forward with a bright smile, like this is just another game. The vice captain steps in and introduces himself as LeBron, a lancer. Krina shouts her name and charges. Their weapons clash, and although LeBron blocks her easily, people are shocked by how strong she is for a child. Alan thinks her daily practice must have already pushed her skill far higher than normal. LeBron strikes back, and Krina barely blocks. Jera panics as she tries to attack again, but leaves herself open. A hard kick sends her flying into the wall. Jera and the others try to rush forward, but soldiers stop them. It feels like everything is over. Then Krina stands up, surrounded by a strange light. She moves faster and hits harder than before, forcing LeBron to fight seriously. With one powerful swing, she cuts his weapon in half and nearly strikes his head. Xenof steps in and ends the duel, declaring Krina the winner. The crowd cheers as Xenof congratulates Jera and apologizes for doubting him. Jera only cares about holding his daughter and making sure she is safe. Later, at the village chief's home, Xenof explains that Baron Granbell sent him to confirm the rumor of a sword lord, and after the duel, there is no doubt. He announces that the village will now be called Kina Village in Krina's honor. He also tells an old story about a noble child once mistaken for a sword lord, which is why all special talents must now be tested more than once. Xenof apologizes again and asks Jera to train Krina well, saying she can enter the academy at 12 and one day serve the royal family. Dagora asks if anyone can join the academy, and Xenof says a teacher will come to the village, and those who train hard may earn a chance. Krina says Alan should study too, but Dagora mocks him for being talentless. Krina jumps in to defend her friend, and Alan finds it funny that a little girl is standing up for him. Xenof finally notices Rodin and praises him as a famous boar hunter, explaining that the Baron loves the village's boar meat. Alan feels proud seeing his father respected, even if the noble enjoys the reward.